Now, here's an interesting piece of trivia for you. Did you know that every year, Old Mutual does an in-depth study of the savings and investments attitudes of thousands of South Africans out there, which offers a great deal of insight on the topic? And I think if you think about it, that in today's world, you need to be everything to everyone, and people are paying for your attention and indeed your wallet too. So today we find out how you can start changing your attitudes and start making your money, making you money right now. Take a look.
Everybody says money talks, but money invested talks louder. Find out how you can start growing your money and pay yourself first at payyourselffirst.coza.
Most South Africans know the reasons to save, but they don't do so consistently. Why not? Sometimes you've already spent all the money that you had on just essentials, but there are other factors besides reasoning that enters into financial decisions. Our choices are affected by powerful forces like emotions, habits, knowledge, and other behaviors. Mine personally, I'm a shopaholic, and this morning we're meeting up with Lynette from Old Mutual, and she's going to help us to figure out how you can make your buck go that extra mile.
Did you know every year, Old Mutual does an in-depth study of the savings and investment attitudes and habits of thousands of South Africans? It's called the Savings and Investment Monitor, or SIM for short. Research expert Lynette Nicholson shares some of the surprising results.
Annually, Old Mutual does an in-depth survey on the savings and investment habits and attitudes of thousands of South Africans. What does this involve, and why do you guys do it?
Well, it's a very comprehensive survey that we do annually of working metropolitan individuals in South Africa. And Old Mutual, as the largest savings and investment company in South Africa, it's very important for us to understand what people's savings and investment habits are and their attitudes to saving. And not only so that we can tailor our products to better satisfy the market, but also so that we can educate, if I can use that word, the public around how important it is to save.
The latest research results of 2013 have just been released. How do you guys decide on which section of society to focus on?
Well, what we do is we look at the broad South African metro working population. That's the basis of every survey. So every time we do the survey, we can compare to the previous year. And then every year we look at another specific focus. So for instance, last year we looked at single women and single moms, which was a very interesting segment of the population. Because in the working metro population, those mothers that fall within that population, 53% of them consider themselves to be single moms, which is astounding. Okay, so that was the segment we looked at last year. This year we looked at youth. Well, the youth market, which is the 18 to 30-year-olds, are very important if you think about where the savings culture is going to come from in the future in South Africa. And we know that from our survey that the youth are very, very focused on the here and the now. And they're busy building assets, they're buying cars, they're buying houses, which absolutely, understandably, one would want to do. But very little thought is going into saving. And you know, the sooner you start saving, the better. So if we can engender that culture of saving in the younger generation, that only bodes well for the future of savings in South Africa.
Now, since you've started the Savings and Investments Monitor, what are some of the major insights that you could gather of South Africans when it comes to our habits and attitudes towards savings and investments?
Well, I think overwhelmingly so, and I don't think it's going to be a secret to anyone, South Africans do not have a good savings culture, so we're not very good at that. And absolutely people can say, well, I don't have enough to save, or, you know, how do you expect me to save when the petrol's going up, you know, every month or whatever. But we don't have a good savings culture, so that's the one. And really over the last 3 years or so, we've noticed that South Africans are really, really feeling financially stressed, and they're having to cut down on things. So for instance, lift clubs are more popular. We find quite a lot of parents taking their children now out of private schools, putting them into public schools to save. So they're really trying to manage their budgets every month, but it's hard. The other big finding that we come across is that in the working metro population, which is what we survey, only 1 in 2 people are contributing to some type of long-term retirement plan, which is quite worrying if you think that these are the working people. So that's either contributing into a pension or provident fund or retirement annuity. And that we haven't seen changing for the better over the last few years since we've done the survey. So that's really something that we need to stand up and take cognizance of. The other big issue that came out this time was that parents saving for children's education has dropped dramatically. So much fewer, or very many less people are saving for their children's education than last year and the year before. And that's also worrying, because what's that going to do when that child is ready for university or for tertiary education? You know, how is that going to happen? We're going to have to be reliant on bursaries, on other grants, etc., etc. I think it's a sign of the times. So I think that people are having to put their priority, you know, well, not that education isn't a priority, but people are having to you know, control their expenses, and they're doing it in the best way they can. And some of that, unfortunately, is cutting back on education.
One of the most important reasons why we save is because we cannot predict the future. However, you can manage your current situation whilst bearing the future in mind. It's always a good idea to set aside 3 months' worth of salary for great financial security. And although this is not always achievable, having this goal in mind gets you one step closer there. Savings is a mindset, and Old Mutual can help you with your future plans.
You play hard and work smart, but how are your investments? Find tools and calculators at payyourselffirst.coza and map your goals.
I must say, I like that. Savings is a mindset, and I like the idea of paying myself first at the end of every single month. Huh? Wouldn't you like that? Of course you would. Now, if you have any other questions that you'd like to ask relating to these financial topics, you are welcome to go onto our Facebook page, Expresso Morning Show SABC3. Put a comment up with the hashtag OMUFirst, or you can tweet us at Expresso Show also with the hashtag OMUFirst with your questions or comments, and one of Old Mutual's financial advisors will get back to you with sound financial advice. We're going to take a quick ad break. Lots more to come on Expresso.